Call this meeting to order. All stand and face the flag for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Be seated. Roll call. Britton Luther.
Present.
R.J. Donovan.
Here.
Tim Yocum. Approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve minutes.
I'll second the motion to approve minutes.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approval of claims.
Have one exception on claims, 0126 Vermillion County Drainage Board, contract with HWC. Withdraw that from the claims, and otherwise I'll make a motion to approve claims.
Okay.
I'll second the motion to approve claims.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Approval of payroll.
Make a motion to approve payroll.
I'll second motion to approve payroll.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We're going to start the meeting first. John Spur has something to say today.
I just want to comment on two things that happened at the last meeting. Sorry about that. Not used to being the one that gets to talk the most. The last meeting, when somebody was coming up to the podium, I heard him make the comment, I don't care if I'm recognized, I'm going to speak anyway. And I just wanted to make a reminder, you don't have a right to public comment in a meeting. If you go to some of our school board meetings or Clinton Town Board, you'll see much more restrictive rules on what they allow the public to do. For 20 years, the commissioners here have been very lenient on letting people come up and speak on various issues, with the only recent requirement has been to come to the podium. But last meeting, it got a little bit out of hand, and I just wanted to remind everyone that it isn't an inherent right to come in. This is a commissioner's court. It's not an inherent right to come in here and say whatever you want. I can't go upstairs to the circuit court and have a protest, or if I'm told it's not my turn to speak and I go, I don't care, I'm going to say whatever I want, I'll probably end up in the Vermillion County Jail for at least part of the afternoon. So our public comment here is a courtesy, and I'm going to ask the public to be respectful of that. Even if you strongly disagree with something that's being done, you should still be courteous. It's our local government. If it does keep up, I've made the sheriff's office and the prosecutor and the commissioners aware there are statutes that allow people to be jailed for disrupting a public meeting. I've never seen that happen. I don't want to see it happen. But if we weren't over the edge last meeting, there were some people with their toes in the water, and it needs to be reeled back a little bit. The other comment I want to make, I kind of got drowned out last meeting by the shouting, was on the health officer appointment statute. This was changed just this past summer, and the change added, most of American law, you'll find all these different checks and balances where one body has to do one thing and another body does something else. They changed this law. The old version used to be the health board nominated someone and the commissioner certified the nomination and that person became the health officer. The state legislature changed that law to require the county legislative body, which here are the commissioners, they have to approve that nominated individual. And the key part of the statute I was trying to point out is it says, if the appropriate legislative body fails to approve a nominated individual on two separate occasions, the individual is barred from further consideration for the position. That nomination has now come before the commissioners on October 26th, and it was brought before them again on November 9th. I don't think that person can further be considered for approval. If they were approved, I think it would be an illegal approval. So I just wanted to make those 2 points before we got into another meeting. Thanks.
Thank you.
We're going to open up this meeting first with public comment. We ask you to come to the podium to speak. We do want you to limit your microphone. Pull it back. We do want to limit your speaking to 3 minutes, and so whoever wants to come first, public comment. We have some. Come on up. Come up and identify yourself. You got 3 minutes. Brandon.
Brandon Ruth, Cayuga, Indiana. Just wanted to really restate what I had to say in the Clintonian recently with a letter to the editor, which is that I support the commissioners in their decision. I think that they're being prudent given the circumstances to inquire more about the appointee from the health board. That, like John stated, Indiana law, Indiana code has changed and has empowered the commissioners now to be able to oversee and make those decisions. And I think that's indicative, especially given the fact that the law changed over the veto of the governor, who had his reservations about it, but that the law is representative of the will of the people. So I think that the majority of the people in Indiana would like to see this kind of oversight, and because of that desire, the law was enacted, and so we're seeing it in action. So I think that that's something commendable, and I think that the commissioners are doing what they ought to be doing. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lynn Brewer, Vermillion County resident. One is, am I understanding right that like somebody like John Week cannot hold two offices? He cannot be coroner and health department director, or am I wrong on that?
There are prohibitions on a person holding two lucrative offices.
Okay. So
Yeah.
does he have to decide then if he's appointed, or what happens there?
If he were appointed to a second lucrative office, he would have to decide whether to accept that appointment and resign his current position, or refuse that appointment and retain the position he was in.
Okay. And my second question is, on the initial time when it came through on the board recommendation, was it turned down or was it just tabled? Was it, I mean, because I understood it to be just tabled.
Let me explain a nuance there that I think is being missed. There are certain statutes, like, for example, zoning. If a proposed zoning change is brought to the commissioners, they can act on it, but if they don't act on it, after a period of time, the change goes into effect through their inaction. In other words, they have to affirmatively reject that change. The legislature did not write this statute that way. What they said is they used the words, if the appropriate county legislative body fails to approve a nominated individual on two separate occasions. So they use that language, fails to approve. It doesn't say if they table it, it just says if there's two separate occasions they don't approve, then that person becomes ineligible. And I think there's a real concern now that if we were to appoint that person, that it would not be a legal appointment because of that language.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next. Come on.
Greg Lucas. I'm Roger Jones's dad. He's one of them also being brought up for the job. And I brought in a resume, basically a lengthy one. It was copied each for the commissioners. And it goes through length. And it goes, one of them is was a major in the Air Force, ran the health department, was a gynecologist, also works in Vermillion County, lives in Vermillion County. And it goes extensively through this. I'd have to read for 15, 20 minutes to do this. So I would say that more than qualified, very serious, a great doctor. He was an OB/GYN specialist, now works for the prison, also works at Swain's Places and as a director. But like I said, it's extensive, and I just want to back him 100%. He's a great doctor.
Is there black?
Thank you.
Is there a pronouncing?
Yeah, they're right here.
You want? Okay. Okay.
Because it would be, you can go through them, study them, and whatever you need to do. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
I don't see anybody.
Okay. We're going to move on to open issues. Vermillion Rise. Bob Groove.
Morning, I'm Bob Gruy with Vermillion Rise. A few updates. We met last week, and from our agenda items here, I'm looking at my phone, we're talking about utility rate adjustments. We haven't changed our rates since we started running utilities out there, and they were low to begin with, so we're working on that. We're also adjusting our sewer use ordinance. We had a very low limit for phosphorus, and we got some money to improve our treatment there, so we're working with Scott Pett to sort of find the happy middle ground to set a limit that can help them, but also set us up for future tenants that might have higher phosphorus levels for treatment. We approved a event policy. I just realized I'll send you a copy of that. And we do get inquiries, and we thought it would be effective to show at the front end, all the sorts of waivers and things that we expect. Plus our insurance companies indicated we want to be very selective about that. If we started doing events every week or so, we'd run into a situation. We're also changed things here. We changed our meeting date to Tuesday, December 14th rather than Thursday. I have a conflict with our Indiana Economic Development Association. I'll be coming in as chair of that organization, and we have our annual meeting, and so wanted to be there for that. Tim, you helped us contact the Indiana Attorney General, and we have submitted a letter to the AG's office asking for an official opinion that the reuse authority is a unit of government. We hope that'll help us with insurance and other things that where folks don't seem to understand the code in our enabling legislation, so this will clarify that. We're happy that Thrive West Central's got all of our projects in their SEDS now, the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, so we're become eligible for EDA funding. We talked about our insurance. It's gone up measurably, but it's just sort of sign of the times, if you will. And I think those are some of the highlights, unless there's any questions.
Have we had some claims on insurance? Is that the reason why?
Well, there's a number of things. Claims, shopping it. Frankly, it seems to be a lot about the legacy of that property and what it was used for. I mean, no one has to insure us.
Have you looked into being an incorporated city in itself? Have you gone any further with that discussion?
No. We've kind of talked about it, since the insurance guys would say you're not a unit of government because you don't have a fire department, police, these typical things. So we've kicked that around. We hope this AG opinion will tamp that out and be able to say we are a unit of government, and we get the immunity from litigation and those sorts of things that we hope will help from a liability standpoint. But the property insurance is really the bigger rub.
I was thinking more in line of what other things cities are entitled to as well, that you're currently not eligible for.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, you answered my question. You haven't looked into it any further at this point.
Rakita's office, they're sending a representative down here, and when they do, would it be okay to come over and meet you guys?
Oh, by all means. Sure.
I think that question might be able to help that clarify. The other question, did you and Economic Development get together?
Yeah, we talked about that. Doug and I have been talking a lot, and our board, we decided that I would be sure to attend their meetings, but I would certainly forward the notice to everybody. And some of the folks, said that'd be great, if somebody's got time on their agenda, they'd like to sit in and realize the value of understanding where each other's doing.
Yeah. What we're talking about is someone from Economic Development attend the RISE and someone from the RISE attend Economic Development meeting, because we got different entities in this county, and how do we bring those entities together? And I think if Doug wants to be next to talk, you had the meeting, right? You want to bring up stuff about the economic development that went on. But I think, how do we come together? I mean, that's the big thing. How do we close the deal? How do we make this stuff work? So,
Thanks.
Thank you.
yeah. Doug, you want to come up? He's part of this conversation with the RISE, so I thought it'd be nice to have him speak. Appreciate Doug.
Yes.
Good morning. Doug Hess, Economic Development. And just kind of piggyback on what Bob was saying a few minutes ago, I believe we had one of our board members, Leonard Akers, that attended the last meeting at the RISE. So we've already started that process. And then we also have Tom Milligan, who sits on both our board and the RISE's board as well. So we've already started that process in there. Hopefully, everybody has in their packet today a proposal that Economic Development has worked with the RISE as an incentive package to provide the RISE with a little bit more incentive, if you will, for the shell building. And our board has suggested and voted upon. We would like to recommend that $1 million of the $1.5 million payback from the sale of the spec building would be added to an incentive package as a loan with a 1% interest rate. Again, something to be able to give Bob when he's looking or talking with individuals with that spec building, another incentive. They may or may not be interested in that, but at least having that option on that, and that's a proposal that we would like to bring forth as a suggestion. Some things that we've talked about, payback period, I think we suggested 10 years. Obviously, those are just ideas and suggestions that we're throwing out there to, once again, work with the RISE to help in that process.
I think the big thing is how can we work together to close a deal? I mean, if we're this close, and maybe this might be something that kind of gives it to last. There was some other money involved here too, but is that not shown here? That a different discussion?
Yes, that would be a different discussion. Yes.
We'd have to approach the council on that, right?
That is my understanding as well. Yes, that it would have to be a.
Is that something you want to go and see if you get on the agenda for the council to?
It's on for the 16th.
16th already.
It's already on.
It's on their agenda. They're aware of it.
Yep.
You guys got any discussion about this? What do you think, or any input?
Do you have arranged a meeting for the city, or for the council and for the commissioners and yourself concerning the Vermillion Council?
We are working on that. We need to get with the council and be able to get a date set or them on board. And I'm not saying they're not on board. It's just we just got to continue pushing that we need a meeting sooner than later.
Right.
Okay.
Well, currently, right now, in our interest, that could change. Our money right now, we're getting like a 0.15 on interest. So even if we did it 1%, we'd have 6 times what we get now.
Yeah.
But how do we close the deal? I mean, if we can come together to make this happen, I think that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. And Doug, you're asking for like a joint resolution with the
Correct.
council, right? Yeah,
Yes.
I think it's a good idea. I wouldn't have any issues with it.
So I will get with the council and see what they say, then continue to push this along if that's all right.
Sounds good to me.
I'm supportive. Whenever you get ready to go to the council, let us know. I'm glad to support you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vermillion Trails Alliance.
Good morning, Les Zimmerman, Vermillion Trails Alliance.
Morning.
A couple items here. First of all, we're getting very, very close to having this grant application completed. It is due on December the 1st. I think that's next Tuesday or Wednesday, something like that. One of the items we need is this application to be signed by you, Tim. I think we've had the discussion about that you all are the applicants. I think we've done a pretty good job of putting this application together. We have had a pretty good outpouring of matching funds. We've managed to put together about $280,000 or so for matching funds. This is going to be a $1.4 million project. So I need to walk out of here with that today, if we could, please, Tim. Are there any questions about that?
I'll let the other two overlook this too, and we'll give it to you at the end of the meeting. Is that okay?
I got another one here just in case you in case you mess up your signature, Tim.
Now, when's the date? Is this all going to come down? I mean,
Okay, this is due on December the 1st to be turned in. We have word from the review committee, the Next Level Trails Review Committee, that they will probably not make a decision on this until sometime in the spring. So this is going to be a long process. Very competitive program. We have a lot of applications coming in for $30 million.
can you tell everybody generally what the scope of this is briefly, so they would know what this project is?
Oh, I wish I'd have brought my map. Basically, this is an extension of our existing project. Okay, our existing project goes from the Montezuma pedestrian bridge on the south side of Montezuma. It goes from the terminus of that bridge, continues west on the abandoned railroad grade, and that project, I'm going to go to that here in just a minute. I'm going to talk about that. But that project stops at the active rail grade, and it again becomes a dead end there. This application is an attempt to get out to the public road system. The way we intend to accomplish that is to, at that terminus, we want to build a bridge across the Little Raccoon Creek to the south, continue along the railroad tracks on private land for 2,800 feet to a public railroad crossing, and establish a trailhead at that point. Everything will be ADA accessible. We have agreements with both landowners to convey the property to us, whether by donation or purchase. And so we're very excited about this project.
What is the form of that agreement with the property owners? Is it?
We have it's an intent, what do we call that? I'm starting to get confused, all the forms and stuff we've gone
That's
through.
fine.
But
That's an intent to purchase.
they've signed a form that says they have an intent to sell to us. Yeah, there's no details, no price, no nothing, just that they have an intent to work with us. So there's no commitment on either part other than an intention, which is sufficient for the terms of the grant application. Any other questions? Okay, second item. Let's see, tomorrow, the second, okay, on this first project, the one that goes from the bridge on the abandoned rail grade to the active rail line. That's called the Wabash Heritage Trail project. If you'll recall, we had a bid process on that. All the bids came in high. So we've been talking with HWC. They've been very helpful to us to put out and rebid that project. I have personally spoken with Eric Smith, with Brian Noggle, and with Mark Swingle, also with Dan Rippey, and I've forwarded to each of those a notice to bid. So we've got several new people on board. They are not necessarily union contractors, but they are absolutely local, which I think is important. So we will have a pre-bid meeting next Monday, November the 29th. We're going to meet over here at the library. From there, we will proceed to the job site, answer all their questions. We will expect to have the bids in here at your next meeting, December the 7th.
You got your paper.
Thank you.
Anybody else got any questions?
Thank you.
That's going to be a published bid or bidding, right?
Yes, you all will open a bid, just like last
No, I
time.
meant it's going to go. It's not just by invite, right?
No. There's a notice in the paper.
There you go.
I talked to Brad Hill again at White Construction. He saw it in the Dodge report, where all those things are all uploaded to these. Yeah, it's broadly, it's out there. And I think some of these local guys probably don't access those kinds of resources. And so that's why we've kind of, and thank you for those contacts.
Yeah.
Can any of you think of anybody else we ought to bring into this?
Yeah.
I'll make the call.
Okay. Appreciate that.
You have Kenizer yet? You didn't mention.
I've not talked to Ed. I will do that.
And I'm not sure if Lubavitch would be interested or either excavating.
I talked to Lubavitch and Farrington last time around, neither of them
Neither one of them was,
interested.
yeah.
You still might mention it too, things change.
I'll send that out to both of them, all three of them. All right,
Thank you.
anything else?
Okay, any questions for Les? Okay.
Thank you.
Cam?
Thank you. Next on the agenda is Town of Dana Water Project.
My name is William Peebles with Dana Waterworks. I'm here to represent the Dana Town Council. I came asking for some money the last meeting, and it was in the amount of $500,000 from your American Relief Plan money. It's an emergency for the town of Dana to get some money here to help us reduce the cost that we're going to have to charge our residents for water. And all of this emergency is created by the pandemic that we've all went through and trying to come out of. So that's what the American Relief Plan money's for. So I'm asking for some money.
You said it's an emergency?
Yeah, it's an
And
emergency.
How do you classify it as an emergency?
Well, what are we going to do for a water tower? I mean, the amount of money that that project has increased since we started this planning for this project, and now is over $1 million more from the estimated cost to the bid cost.
Okay.
If I could just add to what he's saying, we passed out previously to you, and you have in front of you, pardon me, a list of comparison of rates in Vermillion County, and you can see that Dana proposed rates would be $86 for just water at 4,000 gallons, which would be the highest rates in the county. I've also passed out to you a sheet which shows the different amounts of county ARP money that if you would give, how it would buy rates down. If you don't give anything, it's the 86.72. If you can give us 500,000, it's the 57. If you give us 400,000, it buys them down to 63. If you give us 300,000, it buys them down to 68.95. I wanted to reiterate the offer from the Indiana State Revolving Loan Fund that they'll match any money that you give us, and I think that's a great offer. Also want to mention that we're coming in asking, we've also found other sources of funding. We're coming in asking for a little less than 1/5 of the amount of money for our project for you. So, you're multiplying your available funds by 5 times if you use that as a standard for other people to come in and ask you for money. If you get the 2-for-1 offer, that's 10 times. So, if you've got $3 million to give out, you could actually bring in $30 million worth of construction to the county. So I think they're all good offers. And I guess the final thing I can say is that every dollar that you can't give us is going to cost the town $2 to make up. And we just ask for whatever you can give us and your consideration. Thank you for that consideration.
On this quote here, you got the current is monthly minimum $17.94 for water.
Yes, sir.
And then you got the monthly minimum proposed. And is that with what you're going to be proposing for, with or without the funding? Or I mean, where's?
Well, without the funding, it would the minimum would go up to $39.86, and the average bill at 4,000 gallons would go up to $86.76.
So, $1 million of investment is going to double your water bills of increase of not funding.
Yes, sir.
What has your rate structure been for the last 10 years? What your increases have been in the last 10 years?
The last increase,
15% at approximately 5 years ago. I don't know the exact date on that increase, but it was a 15% increase at that point in time.
When did you recognize that your water tower needed to be replaced?
20 years ago, probably.
Is there a reason why you haven't been upping your rates accordingly to be able to offset the costs?
To offset the $1 million that popped up extra over the last year.
Not the $1 million, but to offset the cost of the tower itself?
I can't answer to that.
Generally, I'm considered an expert in rate making in Indiana. I testified in front of the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission for 20 years, 30 years. I'm a financial advisor. Rates and charges in Indiana are governed by state statute, Title 8 for water, Title 36 for sewer. You generally don't raise rates in anticipation for big construction projects. You try to find out what kind of funding is available for that. You sell the bonds, and then you build that into your rate structure from that point on. The smaller, what we call the short-term replacements, we build into rates, but the long-term, the replacement mains, the relining, the water towers are almost always throughout Indiana built into a rate increase based on the amount of funding that's available when you have to pay for the project.
There's other means other than rate increases. There could have been bond issues and whatever before now too. And also the utility rate, URC is, they're amenable to large projects of being able to allow that is in their flexibility to do so, but you didn't elect to approach them about this.
The IURC, Indiana Utility Regulatory
Correct.
Commission, we're actually outside the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission jurisdiction. We've opted out of commission jurisdiction. So
Well, then that doesn't apply then. And URC didn't apply then.
The IURC does not apply to, they don't have jurisdiction over our rates and charges.
So you could have raised your rates over the last 10 years to help pay for this.
The state statute says the rates have to be fair and reasonable, and you've got what you call statutory revenue requirements, which you build our rates on, and those statutory revenue requirements are operation and maintenance, taxes, depreciation or asset replacement, principal and interest on bonds, a thing called payment in lieu of tax, and return on utility plants. We have to make specific findings in our rate studies to comply with the statute, so we aren't challenged on the rates and charges that we've implemented. So, if we did issue bonds, we'd only be able to issue the bonds if we raised rates, and that's what we're doing here. We're issuing bonds to pay for the project, and we're raising rates to be able to issue those bonds.
If you build this structure, how many customers will it serve or have the capacity to serve?
It's like 230, somewhere in that neighborhood. The current daily usage is
Identify
around...
yourself. You're speaking. Go ahead, identify yourself.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Eric Smith, HWC Engineering. The current usage in the town is about 36,000 to 38,000 gallons per day, and the tank has a capacity of 75,000 gallons per day, and that's based on peak usage so that they have available flow in the event of a fire or an emergency. But inherently it allows for significant growth of new customers if that were to happen for the town. So that growth is built in. And to address one of your earlier questions, the planning for this originally started formally in 2013, 2014. And this is kind of the second and last phase of this project. The initial phase was an improvement to the town's distribution system because they had a very high water loss, over 50% water loss. That project was aimed to replace some water mains, hydrants, install a lot of isolation valves so that they could get their water loss under control, because their biggest issue was their water source. Their well capacity was unable to meet the demand because a lot of the water was being lost, exfiltrating into the soil. And they had been written up by IDEM for several things regarding their water supply, their wells, and they had even experienced outages where they had to ration water. So that project was completed because there was also the thought that they could potentially buy water from Vermillion Rise and do away with their wells, but that project ended up not being feasible. So the second phase of that project then was to rehabilitate the water supply, the water treatment, and then replace the water tank. Water tank, as Bill I know has said, is close to 100 years old. They can't get anybody to even physically inspect it now just because of safety and OSHA regulations. So it is a safety hazard. So.
And what size are you going to? You got a 75?
75.
What are you going to?
It is 75 is the new tank.
What's the old?
The current tank is 62,000.
Okay, so you're going up 13,000.
Correct.
That's all you're going up for
Correct.
how much money is that tank?
The tank portion of the bid is 798,000. First bid was 725, second bid is 798.
I thought I read in the analysis that it was based on 249 customers.
That's
On
their
a pay.
current customer base, correct?
But so what can we increase what is the future growth of this water supply? Is it still 249? There's no
Well, if
projected growth to this? or-
when you look at what their usage being in 35 to 36,000 gallons per day now, IDEM cites 310 gallons per day per person is an average use in design. So you could add 100 people and you know,
Still be within the
to the capacity easily.
But
What
if
other-
the residents of Dana have to pay a $90 a month water bill, there's gonna be less and less and less people paying water bills in the town of Dana. They're on fixed incomes and elderly and.
And to point out one more thing, when the question was asked, why didn't they raise the rates more incrementally? Although I wasn't involved, I know the town went through a sewer project in the early 2000s, which put some additional financial burden on the users as far as a rate, a monthly user rate. So I think there was some reluctance to hit them again with more water rate increases.
Have all these improvements been rolled into the current rates that have been done already?
They're in the proposed rates that Steve spoke to.
We won't actually raise rates and charges until we find out where all the funding's coming from, so we don't raise them any more than we have to.
But you were talking about you replaced mains or in isolation valves, or is that
All
part of the
that-
picture?
Yeah, that was the
That was all done in
15%
phase one.
increase.
Previous rate.
But that's already rolled into the rates that you have now to pay for that type project,
Currently,
those projects?
yes, yeah.
Okay.
That, and that project was effective because their 50% water loss now is down to about 10.
Sure. What other improvements are going to be required after you get done with the tower?
We don't see any, other than general maintenance to keep what we have going.
This project is addressing all the deficiencies outside of the distribution system. So it's improving the wells, it's improving the raw transmission main to the treatment plant, it's making the necessary improvements to the treatment plant, and as well as building the new tank. So all the needs, it's a comprehensive project that's going to get them, you know, to carry on for 20 years into the future.
And all the other I think you answered it, but all the other outstanding debt is now covered in the current rate structure.
Correct.
So that reemphasize, okay.
Your current wells, you having a problem with your nitrates or atrazine or anything like that? All
No.
holding up?
Nitrates, no.
Atrazine, all the other stuff that
No,
farm fields?
our water meets all state regulations.
I mean, I'm just wondering if there's any problem
Yeah.
that could be there, if you, another issue.
Other than iron, their water quality is very good.
Is there a reason why you didn't go in front of the Economic Development Commission for these bonds and for the
They actually do.
loans for this?
They actually do have a loan from economic development for some of the previous work.
Well, I meant from the commission, not from the council.
It don't matter.
Is that not an appropriate source of monies that could, in fact, a better source? That's what they're commissioned to do, that Economic Development Commission.
I don't know if because we already owe them money, they.
Again, different pot of money.
I think based on legal counsel, that their thought was, you know, we had already went to that well, and we wouldn't be received as well, so we wanted to tap all the other sources. So.
Okay.
When's the deadline on this? This has to be done?
29th.
If we decide to.
The 29th.
We're pre-closing the state revolving loan fund on December 1st, and we have to have all our funding in place for that pre-closing, and the closing for the loan for our bond would be December 15th.
Okay.
Council has a meeting set for the 29th, so they would have to have something before then.
Well, I think that, I'm speaking for myself, the RP money we have right now, we're not in the phase, we're not to that place, in my opinion, coming up with a total plan of what we're doing with this money. And it's not, we want to help everybody, I mean, but how do you take this money and apply it somewhat equally where it benefits, maybe some way. And we're not to that place right yet, I think. I mean, we're just talking among ourselves and haven't formed anything that's a real committee to make those decisions. So like I said, we want to help everybody. That's our intention, to help everybody, but how do you help everybody and everybody's happy? It's just something that I don't see how we can do that with that amount of time. I think we're still in the planning stage of how we're going to spend it. And different people say different things. We talk about different things, and different things have changed already within that scope of what we're going to do. So I question what we're going to do right now. So anybody want any comment?
Yeah, I've got a couple. I guess my first thing is, if we don't help you, who does?
We have to borrow the money,
Yeah.
and the residents of Dana have to pay that back.
I think the council had a meeting the other night, and correct me if I'm wrong, did they set a line item aside for us to make a decision?
Yeah, they recessed till the 29th for you to make a decision today.
They appropriate, I think, up to 703,000.
703,000.
700? I'm with Tim. I think we do need a plan. I would like to see a joint meeting with the council, but in the short term, I think you guys do have a deadline and you are trying to meet that. I would be open to, I talked a little bit prior to the meeting with a few people. I would be open to the $300,000 to give to you guys. I understand you get a match with that. Is that correct?
Yes, we'd get a $300,000 match. That would be very generous of you, and we'd be very appreciative of that.
So I'll leave that at the liberty of the other two commissioners if I can get one to support me, but I would move that we would use $300,000, whether it be from the ARP or wherever we need to take it from, to help the town of Dana with this emergency that they have.
You have a motion on the table.
Call for a vote then.
You don't have a second yet.
Well, call for a second then. Got a second on it? I'll second it. Discussion?
I did a little bit of look at this over the last 2 days. Not really 2 days, a few hours in the last 2 days. The best I can come back with on the project is that this will have an effect of about 6.186 years before the effect is, excuse me, got cold, before we get back to a zero return back to actually be to Dana and to the county. So we're pushing 7 years for the payback on this, so it's within 7 years marginal. If we would go back and allow them, this is based on 500,000, not 300,000, but where they would increase their rates 10% per year on the rate of return on that for the next 18 years, then that's when the county would be made whole again, where basically the county just zeroes out on the loan. In other words, they would start paying back after 6 years. Basically, in year 7, they would start paying back to the county at the rate of 10% of increase in their rates as they go forward up to year 18. The problem with this is that the rates here and the project that I see does not account for opportunity costs of the ARP monies. Unfortunately, our ARP has not been allocated. They've not made recommendations to us as to where that monies go or how much of those monies are to go out wherever, out of the potential $3 million, I believe it is, total, whenever we get the other $1.5 million. Based on this, I don't see it being favorable to the county as a county project anyway, as money's being well spent at this point, given that the opportunity costs have not been entered into this. And with it, what I've come up with so far is that it's a marginal, right on the end of the marginal portion of a project, of being a viable project for us as a county anyway. It is very good for Dana. There's like an 18% return on Dana for us to allocate the monies to them, so it's a very lucrative return on money spent for future values of the monies to them. Zero for basically the county. And what we lose is the opportunity cost there. So we could do it, but we have we lose opportunity for the money to be spent in other avenues inside this county. So those are my comments. Excuse me.
Any comment?
No, I've said everything.
Call for a vote. All in favor? What? Okay.
Tim, we're not doing that, are we? Are you doing this again? Are we going to open this up again like this?
For conversation?
Public comment?
No, there's no public comment right now.
I have a question though.
So we have a motion, I second. A discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. $300,000 where we set it at for now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Very appreciative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
This is a rough situation trying to figure out how we're going to appropriate money. And I mean, you all know what we're trying to say. We're trying to be, how do we spend it? I would like to have seen something that all these funds would have went to something to totally affect our county, you know, totally. But there's no way that any decision we make up here is going to please everybody. It's not going to happen. We do take interest in trying to help everybody that we possibly can. So that's the end of that conversation. Next on the agenda. Get my agenda back here.
I think it might be joint, maybe.
New business. New business. Under new business. Broadband distribution letter of support for AT&T joint. Josh application for grant. We have. What?
Here?
There's two letters of support that we got there in that packet. One was for joint and one was for AT&T.
We received those?
Was this joint? Okay. But both of them came for support.
Hi, my name's Josh Zerner. I'm president and CEO of Joink. I'm here today to discuss Joink's application to the Indiana Next Level Connections broadband grant program. This is round 3 of the Indiana Next Level Connections grant. Joink has made a significant investment in Vermillion County, and we continue to invest in Vermillion County. Joink was fortunate enough in the Next Level Connections Round 2 program to win 7 different projects. And in this particular round, we've submitted a letter of intent in all 5 counties in which we have fiber optic network. That's Vigo County, Vermillion, Park, Clay, and Sullivan County. I'm here today to request your support, hopefully at least a letter of support, but more preferably a joint resolution to provide matching funds, joint being with the county council. We think that the odds of winning the application that we've submitted to the state are increased dramatically with a financial match from the county itself. This is a really neat opportunity. The state has provided a list of the eligible census blocks in Vermillion County. We have used parcel data for all of the improved parcels in the county to identify the location addresses of those eligible homes, and we've prepared a map, and I'd be happy to pass that. Okay. We've prepared a map of those eligible locations. There's 138 addresses that we've identified in Vermillion County that are improved parcels, and we've included every address in Vermillion County. If without your financial support, Joink will still make an application to the state, albeit likely for dramatically fewer addresses. To include all addresses, we we need your financial support to make the project economically viable for Joink. In building to these 138 eligible addresses, we will pass 296 locations that are within 100 feet of Joink's network. Our pricing policy is such that we would build fiber to those homes that are passed for just a $250 install fee. So there's a real opportunity here to reach the eligible homes, and on our way to the eligible homes to service ineligible homes as well. So this opportunity, with your support, gives us the ability to reach over 400 homes in Vermillion County and to service those homes with an all fiber optic solution. Joink builds its fiber network entirely underground. Our starting package for a single family home is a 200 by 200 meg symmetrical package, and we charge $69 a month for that. The homes that are eligible under the grant will not have an installation fee, and we believe that this pricing and those terms is very attractive. What we've learned in the pandemic is that individuals can work from anywhere when they have good quality connectivity. And Vermillion County has a lot of really great things to offer its citizens, and I think that this is an opportunity that is not just one to react to COVID, but to look at it as an economic development opportunity, and that if you can provide world-class connectivity to homes in Vermillion County, that connectivity will allow folks to earn high wages working for employers outside of the county, and live and work in your community where they can spend that income. Joink has recently announced that we have brought on and or entered an agreement with an infrastructure fund. That incremental investment in Joink will allow us to accelerate our fiber to the home initiative, and our intention is to build fiber to the home starting from the most dense areas and working our way to least dense areas. But these additional route miles in your county will certainly provide, much like the trail conversation earlier, additional routes that get us closer to other customers in your county. And so our intention is to continue our investment at an accelerated pace, really focused on single family homes moving forward. So we estimate the project cost to reach these 138 eligible addresses to be approximately $5.4 million. The
Say
state
again, 138 for what?
I'm sorry?
You said 138 customers for what?
138 homes. We anticipate the project cost to be approximately $5.4 million. The state of Indiana Next Level Connections requires a minimum match of 20%, and Joink will contribute to this project as well. Our level of contribution is based on equalizing the cost per home connected to be comparable to the homes that we connect in a more dense application. So I've prepared a worksheet that outlines this request for support, but essentially at a $5.4 million project, we need to at that project price with an 80% level of support from the state, Joink would contribute $424,000, and we're requesting that the county would consider contributing $670,000. The county can certainly contribute more dollars, and that would increase the probability of our project being selected by the state of Indiana. The state of Indiana, OKRA, Next Level Connections, they have a scoring rubric that they use to select recipients. I expect Joink's project to be well received because we do offer speeds up to 1 gigabit symmetric. It's an all fiber optic solution, and for your benefit, we expect the useful life of the conduit that we place underground to be at least 50 years. We expect the useful life of the fiber optic cable to be at least 30 years. And so this is an opportunity to receive 8 times your money, 7 times your money, and matching perspectives at 80-20, closer to a 3-to-1 match at 65-35. So we view this as a fantastic opportunity for Vermillion County, and we'd really appreciate your support in considering a financial contribution so that we can include all of the eligible addresses in Vermillion County.
What's the deadline on this to apply, and you have to have?
Sure. The deadline was extended yesterday, so prior to yesterday it was January 6th. The deadline is now January 20th. However, Joint needs to complete all of our engineering, all of our estimating based on the addresses that will be included, and we need to obtain a professional engineer stamp on our work product. So it would be very helpful if we could understand and ratify the county's level of support in early to mid-December, preferably early December, so that we know exactly what addresses we're building to and can finalize our application and all the supporting engineered products.
What is your projection for build out of the county itself, the whole county?
Sure. So there's approximately.
And in tune with that, the potential present day dollars that might take?
Okay, sure. So there are approximately 7,500 homes, and that would include apartment units in Vermillion County. We expect to build from highest density to lowest density. We expect to build to those homes generally on our own, and so when we think about density and homes per road mile, so it is commercially viable for Joint to build down to 25 homes per road mile. And so the allocation of that 7,500 homes, approximately 2,700 of those homes are in a density of 25 homes per road mile and up. And so we think in back of the envelope high level math that there's an incremental investment. We've invested about $4 million in your county today. We believe the incremental investment is approximately $6 million just to pass those homes, not to specifically connect them, but to pass them. With the remaining investment being in the lower density of 0 homes to 25 homes per road mile. And those homes and those densities will require significant subsidy to serve, be it either federal or state. I would approximate that to be another $30 to $40 million, just very high level math. That's not especially well engineered, but very high level. That's the order of magnitude.
Josh, on this $5.4 million investment, looking at the map, the proposed routes, would that include all the proposed routes?
Yes, sir. So on the map, the red line is the existing Joint network in the county, and then we've drawn a white line. That white line is the proposed route. We've then depicted along that white proposed route in green dots the homes that will be eligible under the grant. Those homes fall in eligible census blocks. We've also depicted in yellow the homes that are between 0 and 100 feet from our proposed route, and the homes in orange that are between 101 and 300 feet in our route. And what I'm trying to depict there is that there's essentially 730 total homes that will be affordably connected to Joint's
Not
network.
just the 138 at
That's
this point.
right.
Once that original line's put in, the growth is exponential for people. Now they have a line in front of their house that they can afford it. So.
It also, if I was standing here before you today and we hadn't made the initial investment in that red line, just imagine how much it would cost to reach these homes.
Oh, yeah.
So each customer in this business, each customer gets you closer to the next customer.
Yep.
And we look at it as a series of small wins. These projects are really big to tackle, and there are other areas in your county that are serviced by other providers. And so these homes are homes that are coded as unserved, and this is 100%. Our application, we'd like to file our application to be for 100% of the unserved homes.
You mentioned the dollars to be for the build out, but what was the time frame though?
I believe that we'll have a decision from Next Level. If you don't mind, give me just 1 second to look at their revised calendar. So the expected date for selections is April of 2022. So I would expect us to be able to begin the permitting and design phase as soon as May, June of next year, and to at least have some of these homes online in 2022. I think it's somewhat weather and winter dependent, so I think probably some of this work ends up falling in 2023 for completion in 2023. But if we had just amazing weather, perhaps we're done earlier in 2023 than later, but it's just hard for me to predict that, and I'm also a little bit hesitant to assume that the state will issue decisions in April. So if we don't get decisions until July, design permitting August, September, starting a project in the fall, maybe 20% of the homes will be online in 2022 with the rest in 2023.
With your crystal ball, how do we look at the rest of the 5,800 units, being able to service those?
Well, no one will work harder than Joint will work to get those homes served. And the best way I can evidence that is the 7 projects we filed on in the last round. We're very fortunate to have an infrastructure fund as a partner. We've worked very hard to make sure that Joint has access to the capital to pursue everything that is commercially viable. And there is a tremendous amount of opportunity to pursue additional funding sources at the state and federal level. And we're partnered with RJL. TJ Collette is with me today. And together we're going to search for every last dollar for broadband in this 5-county area. We have a good track record now of public-private partnerships. We completed the majority of the mainline construction to reach locations in Vigo County that the city and county funded underneath the GEARS grant that the community received. And I believe that the more we can demonstrate to state and federal leaders that Joint works in concert with local communities and local community funding sources, the more likely we are to be able to receive those additional grant funds. So I can't give you a concrete answer, but I can tell you, and I hope I'm demonstrating by being here today, that we're going to look for every last dollar we can to make sure that every home is served with fiber optic broadband.
So give or take a year, it'll be 2025 will be built out?
Our current plan, in our current plan, Joint has all homes down to the 25 homes per road mile pretty well served in that time period. So the opportunity here is to work in the homes that fall in the 0 households per road mile to 25 households per road mile, and make sure we're finding all of those potential sources of subsidy to get those homes in the lower densities served.
We've been approached by AT&T also of going overhead. Can you talk about the difference between the network you're providing and what we might be able to serve with an overhead line, or can there be a combination of these two?
Sure, there can certainly be a combination of the two. We choose to build underground. We believe that we need to have our eyes wide open to pursue potential opportunities to build overhead. But generally speaking, it depends on the utility company, how accommodating the utility company is on things like make-ready and pole attachments. It can take substantially longer to design an overhead network, but it can be faster to implement an overhead network. In some cases, repair and maintenance can be faster overhead, but in almost every case, there's more damage and more repair required to an overhead network.
We need to interrupt this. The judge needs to get out of here, and we need to get her up here. If she could come through briefly.
Sure.
Apologize for that.
We have an interruption.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Thank
We'll
you.
change
I
schedule. We'll
have
get in
3 hearings
trouble.
waiting for me already, so I apologize. Jill Wesh, Circuit Court. I also have with me Nancy Wilson and John Beardsley from the Public Defender Board. We've submitted to you an ordinance that would allow our county's Public Defender Board work with some of our other surrounding local counties on an interlocal ordinance to possibly develop a regional public defender board. This would benefit our county in several ways. We have had, and I think we've come to you before, we've come to the council before, we've had trouble keeping and getting public defenders. We did not fill all of our contracts for 2021 until about 23 days ago. So we have put a lot on the public defenders that we currently have. just as a general, public defenders are hard to find because like Vigo County offers health insurance benefits. They're able to pay more. So we lose a lot to Vigo County because they can offer more. We can't draw a whole lot of attorneys from Terre Haute up because when they can get that down there, why drive to receive less? We also have an aging public defender population in this area. Less and less younger attorneys are coming back to rural areas. The Supreme Court's trying to address this issue by having interns come out, but this is a problem for everyone, not just us. That's why our 3 counties, Park and Fountain, have been talking about this and have actually already gotten funding approved if this were to pass, so that we could form a potential regional public defender board that would be manned by a chief public defender who would be a county employee, as well as a secretary, all within that budget that we've already received, so that they can then divvy out the contracts and make sure every county is covered. They would also then be managed by this regional board that is part of this ordinance. All this ordinance is for is just for the counties to start kind of working together to see if we can come up with a cohesive plan that will work for all of the counties. So as far as questions, if you have any, I'll try my best.
Did you, I provided some edit to this. This has been appeared to be the edited version. You didn't receive it?
Yeah, I received it.
That came from the state public commission, public defender commission.
I'm in agreement with what you're doing, and the only thing is that this doesn't come back to the commissioners, so whatever agreement that you guys agree to with whatever other county becomes binding on the county. And what I wanted to have is that the final version comes back for approval at the commissioners level.
Actually, as part of the agreement right now, one of the commissioners will be appointing from Vermillion County the board member. So.
Well, regardless of that, I'd still like for it to come back to the Vermillion County Commissioners. There's going to be an obligation to the county of an unknown dollar amount, of an unknown location, of an unknown number of counties, and for that board just to make that decision on their own, even if you have one commissioner on it, it's a minority commissioner at that point if he doesn't agree or does agree. I'd still like to have the final say-so come back, or final version come back for approval to the commissioners, and that's why I drafted it earlier. Whether we, anyway, I'm in agreement with it except for that part of it.
Okay. Park County has already approved their ordinance, the same one, just for reference. All right. Well, then I'll
make a
talk
motion
to the commission and see.
You guys have more comments?
Go ahead. I don't,
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2021-18, modified that the final version of the interlocal agreement be approved by the Vermillion County Commissioners.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion.
Does that cause, you
I don't
look
know.
hesitant.
Without talking to the commission, I don't know what ramifications that would have.
But we have our support subject to that portion of it, so that's my discussion then.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we resume normal broadcasting.
Will Brenda have to print off that ordinance? Will you have that ordinance for us to sign? The one that he had to. Okay.
You might see if that says something about us having final.
I'll let you go ahead and see if it's correct. So the deadline you need to know for Vermillion County was in mid-December, was that right?
Well, our application has to be submitted on January 20th, and we'd like to have just as much time as possible to get our application as perfect as possible. And if we need to remove addresses or modify addresses, that restarts some portion of the engineering effort. So
I was thinking, you know, if you needed by December something, maybe the commissioners and council could get together and see if they wanted to I think you said, what was it, 600? I lost it, 680 or something.
Yeah, somewhere, but
You know-
somewhere north of $670,000 would allow us to have an equal to or greater than 20% match together.
Yeah.
And I think the more dollars that you can allocate towards this project, the more
The better.
homes we get served with broadband faster.
So if you had to give us a deadline in December, like the 10th, the 20th, that way we can try to.
I think I think the 10th would be the latest that I would be comfortable with in terms
December
of
10th.
getting everything off to our engineering team and finalizing designs.
Okay.
But boy, if you could move even faster than that, that would be fantastic.
I think we've got a commissioners meeting the 7th, so maybe if we can get a joint meeting before then and get everyone's thoughts on the ARP.
The ARP money, we're getting ready to have a meeting with council and commissioners. We're all coming together
That's
about
fine.
this and trying to prioritize where this money should go.
Sure.
Dana kind of granted an exception because they said it's an emergency, but those decisions haven't been made about where it's going to be spent.
Sure.
As far as to say today, we're trying to coordinate it better, get a group together here to come up with good decisions.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
we can include that, your request, in that discussion, and then come back by,
Yeah.
hopefully we'll have that meeting here within the next week or so. We'll have a special meeting, I think we could probably have one.
Yeah, we could probably do that.
I mean, wants to get together with the council, so we can kind
Is she?
of figure out, prioritize what we're
That way
doing.
we get all, council and commissioners together and everyone has their input and,
Is that a meeting you'd like me to attend?
I haven't been in any of this broadband meetings at all, so I mean, for me, I would love to have you there for the group of 10, but I'm not sure how many of the council or other commissioners were, aware of some of this stuff, but.
I'd be happy to be
Yeah, I
there.
mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe Brenda, you could let them know whenever we schedule this joint meeting.
We've had 2 council members at a couple of the meetings, so it wouldn't hurt to have them come.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
I'd
you.
be happy to.
So that would,
For a later time.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
I might grab your contact information,
Well,
Josh,
yeah.
so I can email you some questions about that.
Your engineer, everything that you're doing, I'm not sure how far along you are with your planning phase, but if we, I don't know, whatever day we're meeting, whatever that is, what does that do for your planning? Does it?
Thank you.
Are you, I guess you'll work at risk here, kind of, or?
Yes, we are planning to service every location, and we will continue to plan to service every location. If for some reason we're not able to reach 670,000 or more in support, or addresses are challenged, we don't have the result of the challenge process yet, so other providers are able to challenge the addresses that we submit and claim that they are served with broadband. So we're already subject to a little bit of potential change because of the challenge process. So early December is not a problem. And this transition that the state gave us yesterday from January 6th to January 20th gives us a lot more breathing room. But I'd like to be able to get our final list of addresses so we can finalize our design and estimating by mid-December, so I can get our professional engineers a chance to thoroughly review the application.
I know holidays are in here, and that
Yeah.
really plays with scheduling big time for this
It
time of year, so. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity to present this opportunity to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
like I said, we'll get with the council and try to
Actually,
get a
get a-
meeting together with ARP. What?
Okay.
So, like I said, we're trying to make this work for everybody, and it's impossible to
Isn't
do
that
it.
Clark Deeds
It's
thing today?
impossible to do it, so.
Mhm.
Any other further discussion?
Yeah, it should be in here.
Yeah, the Clark Deeds thing is on here for Bridge, is it 23? Bridge 37.
37, yeah.
37.
37.
Yeah.
Are we up to that now?
Yeah, because the judge already done her thing.
My paper's getting out of.
It's the bag.
Yeah, it's professional service agreement.
What it is a professional service agreement for Bridge 37. It's for the national funding, or federal funding, at a 20-80%. It does require a little more effort whenever we go through the federal funds. It's similar to what you're doing with Bridge 122 over at Hillsdale. But this gets us in line with that. until we get our asset management plan, we'll have a better plan at that point in time, but this one will be right at the top of that list, regardless of whenever we get our asset management plan. So this doesn't come to fruition until 2027, assuming that we would receive federal funds for it, but that'd be the earliest date that we'd receive it. There will be some funds expended between $7,000 and $8,000 in the year 3 and 4 in preparation of the 2027. It's all part of that same funding though, and still gets paid for through that funding. So I make a motion that we approve, what is it? The contract with Clark Dietz for an amount, I believe, not to exceed, here it is, $3,000, is it?
Yep.
Not to exceed $3,000 to place bridge number 37 onto the NOFA grant application assistance.
I'll second his motion.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I want to say thank you to Brett. Brett's done a lot of work, and he does a lot of work, especially on this bridge issue. A lot of federal funds, and that's out there, but it's several years down the road before you get the funding. And so he's trying to get some of these bridges and different issues we need to resolve set ahead, and so we can get the funding down the road. It's going to take 3 or 4 years, right, on all these. Most of these call for projects in 3 to 4 years from the start.
I'm afraid it's going to be more than that,
but I mean, it's a lengthy process. So if he's starting to look at bridges down the road that need to be replaced, or down the road, and he's already working out ahead of time to get this done. I want to commend him for what he's doing. Saves the county a lot of money. What is it, 20%? Federal funds 80%, and locals 20%. So that makes a big difference in the future, and it's good planning. So I want to say thank him for what he's doing. Anything else, you guys, before we close the meeting?
We have there is. I don't know what all it is, but we will be coming to agreement tomorrow with an interlocal agreement with NDOT on the millings, and I'm not sure about the guardrail, but we may be able to salvage guardrail for projects as well. And, I'll find out what they're proposing tomorrow. Okay. You're welcome to. You'll be at the commissioners' meeting room there at Clinton. I'd have to look at the time, but that's a humongous.
Yeah.
I mean, amount of material that'll be offered to the county over, from here on out. Every time there's a millions project that goes on and guardrail that comes out. We're also looking at the RISE. Apparently they're wanting to, he's not here right now, but we're looking at the RISE of they're wanting to dispose of guardrail there that's still in good shape as well that we can use. So we're looking at the salvage of these type materials, and so we'll be able to, again, increase our inventory. Actually, we have no inventory. To build an inventory over the years here and be able to help our projects with the millings, there'll be no additional cost to get the material. We'll have costs that'll have to go into placing it and so forth. And the same thing with the guardrail. At least the material costs will be significant dollar savings. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing any of the projects that we'll be doing here in the next 5 years or so.
That's a big deal.
It's a very big deal.
If it's humongous for our county. I mean, it's big deal. If we can get these millings and be able to use them.
And I want to thank our president here. He started this process back up at District 3 when he grabbed some millings up there off of I guess it was the 63 project. He was able to have those brought into District 3 garage, and they laid them down. I forget which road it was that we used them on, but it was a trial by error type because it was something that just happened to be available, and we took advantage of it. We were able to compound on that agreement and bring it forward to bring it to what we're going to have hopefully tomorrow from the state. So anyway, thank you for doing that, Tim.
Well, the thing in closing, I want to recycling note, meet with Gary Reed from International Paper next week. We've tried to start something here as far as recycling, and they act very interested in partner with Vermillion County for recycling cardboard. I think it's a very important step to starting the recycle program and be successful at it. So I'll give you an update on that. Anything else before we close? Got a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second the motion to adjourn.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.
We need to look at